and maybe learn to take time to enjoy his new hammock, watch the birds, soak in the hot tub, and see the world. And as we all knew they would, Emil and LaVerne lived happily ever after.
Thank you, Becky. The next speaker, I don't really know why she's here. So probably I hear she's looking for a story or something. But it's really nice that we can introduce Jacqui, a very honorable graduate who earned a Pulitzer Prize in her work as a journalist and a former student of English. I'd like to say a few words, Jacqui.
Following Becky. When I was in first grade, I was the tallest kid I knew. And then I met Becky. And those of you who don't know me as Barney and Ethel's kind of cheeky disappointment of a daughter who's always doing something they're too embarrassed to tell you about, know me as Becky's legendary best friend. But to be honest, it didn't start out that way. I hated Becky when I was like in second grade because she was bigger than me. And she had an older brother who always pulled my hair. And, you know, I remember every time we'd line up for something at church, Becky always got to go first because she was taller than me, and then I had to come second. I really hated that. I just hated that number two business. But being a smart person, by the time I got to sixth grade, I was smart enough to realize that Mr. Ripley was grade school, and he stood between me and high school. And so it didn't take much of a rocket science of a brain to figure out that if I befriended Becky, I kind of had a little nudge in with him, and how tough would it be for him to give me less than straight A's if at the same time I was crawling up his trellis and sneaking into his daughter's bedroom in the middle of the night to gossip all night. I also had a little bit of a bleeding heart liberal in me already at the time, and I always thought it was really quaint that there was a family in town named Ripley instead of Wichikowski or Shabilsky, or and so like I kind of thought, well, this is neat. I'll take in a third world family, you know. So I'm not sure of my role here either. I don't know if I'm here because I'm Becky's, you know, best friend, or if I'm here because I'm sort of this errant adopted daughter who used to sneak through the alley at night when and always find a house with a big welcome and big people and big laughter waiting for me. Or if it's because I was one of Mr. R's students. And I was always the cheeky kid in his class who, instead of telling me to shut up, he may have been the first important adult in my life who didn't tell me to shut up, but would instead understand that that was my way of learning, and so he'd bribe me with books so I wouldn't mouth off in his class. And as a result, I got to learn more rather than less. There was no constraining there, and that always meant a lot to me. Emil Ripley, Mr. R to me, has touched thousands and thousands of people in our community. If I had been a better math student, I would have sat down and calculated the number of people who either sat in his classrooms or played on his teams or joined his clubs and who have been enriched in some way as a result of this. I've decided I'm going to make my role tonight that of a student, and I want to honor Mr. R and Mom LaVerne Ripley on behalf of all of those of us who have learned something from him, no matter what class we were in, no matter how old we are, no matter what capacity we learned from him. Because in all the roles I've known him, he has always been the ultimate teacher, even when he didn't know that that's what he was doing. I'm one of those many lives that he has changed. If you turn to Webster's, you'll find a predictable definition of teacher. It says to show how to do something, to train, to give lessons. But buried in there, it also says this: to teach is to provide with knowledge and insight. That's the kind of teacher Mr. R has always been. That's been his gift and his gift to us. I hope it doesn't disappoint him to hear that I remember precious little from the academic lessons that he taught. I remember a line or two of Poe. I still remember the cadence of Paul Revere's Ride. I occasionally remember a moment from history, and I almost remember enough math to now bounce a check, but not always. Mr. R was a far better teacher than any of that. He showed us not only how to do algebra, but how to live life. He had the ability to see beyond the lesson to the student, which is not a small thing. To understand the Zen concept of a teachable moment and to seize it, to teach by example as much as by textbook and blackboard. To him, what was learned always seemed more important than what was taught. The student always seemed more important than the teacher, also not a small thing. Mr. R, for me, over the years, has embodied several of the most important philosophers in history. Everyone from the teachings of Jesus Christ, who said, You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. To the Jesuit philosophy of carpe diem, or seize the day, live in the moment, do the most you can do right now. To Norman Vincent Peale's philosophy that laughter is the best medicine, all the way to Yogi Berra's philosophy, if you find a fork in the road, take it. I can't begin to recount all of the things that he taught me and other people here, but to me these are some of the most important. He taught me that children have wisdom and value and something to teach as well as something to learn. That a man can be in love with his wife no matter how many years they've been together or how many children they have, and that he can like his children as much as anybody else in the world. Whenever I went to the Ripley home, it didn't boast much fancy furniture, much in the way of classy material goods, but it was also rich in laughter, and somehow after all these years he still manages to make LaVerne blush and giggle. That's a trick. He taught me that work can be joyful. I remember somebody mentioned the garage, and I remember when the Ripleys needed to paint their garage, which was getting a little bit shabby. The next thing you know, it wasn't only painted, there was this like wildwood scene flying across it, and the kids went out there and they painted it, but it turned into a game. They got to create. He taught me that that laughter is always in good taste. I'll never forget the night that Becky and her husband and myself and LaVerne and Emil were at a $50 plate restaurant, fancy shishi restaurant, and Emil managed to bring the entire restaurant to a shocked pause when all of a sudden he'd been fiddling with his napkin all night, and finally after much fiddling and several glasses of wine, he shouted, "I got it," and he stood up and pulled this red napkin across his chest, and it was a little red drop. He taught us all that giving is how you receive. I think what I hope what he finds in his retirement years is that he gets back all that he has given in all the years of his tutoring and his joining of clubs and his teaching and his running of community. If you needed a baseball bat, you knew whose trunk to look in. If you needed a book, you knew who to go to. If you needed to get into the library at night, you knew where to turn. He was always there for you when you needed him. And he taught me that there was a star inside of each of us just waiting to shine. He never told me to shut up. He understood that it was important not to be constrained, and he gave me the faith in myself to find my voice and to write. Mr. R and Mrs. R gave me a home when I needed one, a best friend for life, and a reason to believe in myself. And next time I look to Webster's under the term teacher, I hope it says reference C. Ripley, comma, Amy.
Speaker is Art Smurawa, our citizen, the parent, is also president of the PACE Pulaski Area Community Education Advisory Council. Art?
Thank you, John. I have a few thoughts I'd like to exchange with you in regard to Emil. You've spoken so much about his family and all the things that he does, but Emil was also one person who wanted to share not only his knowledge, but his happiness in everything, whatever came his way. And that's how in 1959, really I met Emil, I got to know him in 1958 when we were initiated to the 3rd degree of Knights of Columbus. But in 1959, in August, LaVerne gave birth to their daughter, Renee, and my wife gave birth to our son Jim. Now, Emil said that he couldn't get off from work. He asked if I would bring the new family home when I picked up Bernice and Jimmy. I think this was, he just did what he wanted to keep his record perfect without losing a day at work. I also like to tell you about Emil. As we all grow older, we know we get to be fussier. And the same was true with Emil. This was especially also for evidence when he had to move from the old PACE office into the new office. Those of you who were in his office recall him sitting in a huge chair. Well, the new office didn't have room for that chair, so he had to send it home. Now he searched all over the school storerooms and everything, wherever, to try to find a chair. Well, Dee, his secretary, recorded this search. We called this something like Emil and the Search for Chairs, or Emil and Chairs, or whatever you want. But he came along with this chair. Now, this chair was okay, except that it did not have any arms. So he came along with chair number 2. This chair had 2 arms. Nice, comfortable chair, but it did not tilt. But Emil didn't give up. He came along with chair number 3. This chair is quite comfortable, but tilted back, but it stayed in that position. And it didn't have arms. So Emil's still searching. Then finally he did find the chair he wanted. It had arms, it tilted back, and it returned back. So Dee took this picture of him. He's sleeping in it. But he denies that he's sleeping. He told Dee that he was meditating. We know that Emil has done a terrific job with the PACE program. It has moved up into a position now where it is one of the best, if not the best, education, community education program in the state. He has been recognized by many people, and he certainly deserves our appreciation too. Those of us who have been working with him find that he wants input and asks input from everyone. No idea or suggestion given him will be tossed aside. It will be researched, found it feed. If the program goes, good. If the program does not go, if a good effort was made in that direction. So we all, as a community, we owe Emil very, very, very much. And we from the PACE committee want to appreciate him, his efforts. And as representative of that committee, I want to present Emil with this plaque. It reads, presented to Emil Ripley. This is given as a token of our gratitude for your loyal service and friendship, presented by PACE Advisory Council, 1993. Emil, it's my pride and joy to be able to give this to you.
Thank you, Art. I think we've kind of concluded with the list of speakers that we have. Certainly, however, I have the microphone. And I want to just say a few words and certainly share my thoughts, Emil, with you, because you are a dedicated teacher, an outstanding teacher, exemplary teacher, as everybody has talked about. And the superintendent of schools, Pulaski, owe to have a faculty, all of Emil Ripley's. Just an outstanding example for all of us in the field of education, as well as a wonderful father and husband, dedicated community person for all the civic and church organizations, certainly dedicated director of community education. And it was said earlier, you certainly took the PACE program up another step. I certainly want to thank you, Emil, for all that you did to help me personally as the superintendent of schools, as the high school principal in Pulaski, as director at CESA number 8, and now with my current work at Community Education, the Community Education Association. You were always there willing to help me, and I want to say thank you. Willing to take evening jaunts with me when we talk about community education to other school districts throughout northeastern Wisconsin. For that I say thank you, and I certainly know when I speak about for all the students and adults in our community to say thank you for all that you've done for all of them and all of us. And I certainly want to wish you a long and happy retirement with good health and a lot of joy. And on behalf of all of your friends here tonight, we have a little present we'd like to give you at this time. So here's the present. I'd like you to open that. It's a card with all the names.